Hi, I'm Barbara Calvi, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I want to welcome you to the Couples Corner. So today is episode 2 in my series on your brain, friend or foe of your relationship. What I want to talk today about is sort of a physical model of your brain. So Dr. Dan Siegel, eminent psychiatrist at UCLA, has kind of developed a model that he uses to talk with his clients about the brain, and it's really useful. So that's the model that I want to use to talk to you today. So imagine your brain is your fist. So you start with this. Your wrist is your brain stem. So the brainstem is a thing that controls beating your heart, breathing you when you're not thinking about it, all the chemical reactions, all the messages and signals that go from the brain to the different parts of the body, all the things that we don't ever have to think about that help us survive. Then your thumb is the emotional part of the brain, and it sits tucked right in here above the brainstem, way inside. This is where our memories are stored, both the memories that we can remember and the memories we can't remember. And it is where our emotions lie. And then your fingers fold over on top of the emotional part of the brain and form your top of the head and the forehead, what's called the prefrontal cortex. This is the thinking, critical thinking, analyzing part of your brain. Now, what's tricky is the messages and signals that get sent to and from the emotional part of the brain are about 10 times faster than the messages and signals that get sent from the thinking part of the brain. So if you have those moments when you're with your partner and suddenly you're really triggered and things really escalate, that's because this thinking part of the brain has been hijacked by the emotional part of the brain, and this isn't even online anymore. So you can imagine how that creates problems in a relationship. You get triggered, the emotional part of the brain takes over, the thinking part of the brain goes offline, things escalate, things are said that in the calm later on, you think, wow, I can't believe I said that. That was pretty brutal. The other thing that's tricky about this is when we have a really strong reaction and are really triggered to our partner, people will tell me all the time, well, that's because this happens over and over and over again, and that's why my reaction is so strong. Well, there's going to be some truth to that. There's going to be validity to that. But neuroscientists have developed something they call the 80-20 rule, and that is that about 20% of our intense reactions to things that happen, particular in a conflict with our intimate partner, are about what the partner is doing right now, or maybe about the partner at all, and about 80% comes from this part of the brain, the emotional part that stores and warehouses our memories. Because, as I've talked before in my other series on the stages of development, how we are raised and the environment in which we are raised really kind of wires us for a relationship later. So if there is something that was hurtful in our past, when our partner triggers us and we have a really big reaction, about 80% of that, there's a very high chance that about 80% of that is not about your partner at all. So when I explain that to the couples that I see, and they go, oh, yeah, because that kind of does remind me of X. Or, yeah, my parent X was never available. They were always traveling, and I always felt lonely, and I always felt like I didn't matter to them when they weren't there for me. Or whatever the experience is. So when people in my office start to understand that, they realize that their intensity of their reaction is not necessarily all about their partner, and it's not giving them a message about who their partner is and the meaning necessarily completely of what their partner is doing. This makes it a lot easier for them to take a step back, take a few breaths, and respond differently to each other. When we are triggered, that lets us know that because we flip our lids, literally, we flip our lids, and where the thinking part of the brain is not online. This is the worst time to try and talk something through with your partner, to try and resolve anything. This is the time when you want to take a step back, recognize the intensity of your reaction, take a few breaths, and regroup together to discuss it later after you've taken some time to calm yourself down, to soothe yourself in whatever healthy ways you have that you do that can get you back into balance. Because it's only then that you can have conversations with your partner that have any chance of feeling satisfying, where you can feel like you've been heard, and where you have any possibility of resolving anything. So join me next week for episode 3 in my series on the brain, friend or foe of your intimate relationship. And until then, take good care.